market recovery, or just a quick bounce? Let's get into it. So today, guys, we are going to take a look at the entire crypto space and take a look at, how the altcoins have been performing today. Chris, unfortunately, has not been able to join me for this particular video, so we're going to get into a lot more technical data and go through what we're seeing today in terms of all these green candles. Is this the market in recovery, or is this just a short-term bounce with more downside to come? As we get into this video, guys, if you do find this useful and informative, do go ahead and hit that like button for me. I really do appreciate it. And of course, if you happen to be new to the channel and you'd like to stay up to date with all of the technical analysis, the new cryptocurrencies, the hidden gems and news, then why not become a subscriber? By subscribing to the channel, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything. It is free, you'll stay well informed, so why not? With that said, let's jump on down and get right on into what's going on here with the market. Okay, guys, this here is CoinMarketCap, and we can see lots of green down this list. There's pockets of red still. However, for the majority of the projects that we're invested in, we have had a little bit of a pump to the upside. So we've had some green candles. We're going to go through what's going on here. And is this actually just a short-term thing, or are we likely to see a bigger recovery, or are we going to fall back down? Ultimately, guys, we have a $1.5 trillion market cap here. And as we go into this, we can see that the actual extreme fear in the market has dropped yet again. So yesterday we were at 14 and we are now at 10. But of course, this is for the entire crypto space, as I spoke quite a bit about yesterday. If we actually take a look at Evai's platform, and if we actually just dive into something like Bitcoin here, we just open up the Bitcoin dashboard. What we'll do is we'll just have a look and see how that fear is actually working for us. So this is again a D, and we just zoom in here, see how it's currently performing. So yeah, again, it is kind of, getting slightly interesting here with Bitcoin. So it is still quite fearful. There's a lot of fear still here in the space. But I do feel that that is easing a little bit. Obviously, when we take a look at some of these other cryptocurrencies, let's take a look at, let's say, Cardano, for example. This one actually has very little fear in comparison to that of Bitcoin. Let's see if that has changed any. So this is still actually rated up there as a B2, right? So we know that Cardano is not as fearful as Bitcoin, right? So when we take a look at the total fear and greed index for the entire crypto space, it's rated as 10. But obviously there's pockets of fear or extreme fear, and then there's pockets of, it's okay, there's fear, it might not be the best, but it's okay, right? So right now we are where we are in terms of this particular market. What we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a few different things in terms of the technicals to see where we are in terms of Bitcoin and how Bitcoin is performing. And then we're going to have a look at a couple of these altcoins as well that seem to be performing quite well today, such as Stellar, for example. VeChain's performing well. We have one Harmony at 29%. And I think Singularity Net up there at 19 as well. So there's quite a few pockets of some pretty good altcoins that have had a bit of a bounce today. And as we put that member video out yesterday, talking about potentially if you're wanting to exit because you're a bit nervous, then check out that member video because it shows you what exit points you can use the Fibonacci to help guide you in trying to exit and not selling at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to Bitcoin dominance. And again, this has had a little bit of a retracement recently. And obviously this goes in line with everything that we saw previously. So in the 2017, 2018, we obviously saw it come down to 37% and then move up to 52% before coming down back down to where it is actually right now, and then shoot back up to 67 before the alt season actually kicked in and got the Bitcoin dominance down to 32%, right? So Bitcoin's dominance, for those who are unfamiliar, this is Bitcoin dominance in terms of market capitalization against all altcoins. So how does Bitcoin compare to all of the other altcoins in the space? During the alt season of 2017, 2018, we saw Bitcoin's dominance drop down to 32%, which means that altcoins actually had the majority of the crypto space. Right now, at the point of recording this video, I think we're at about 44%. Okay, so Bitcoin actually equates to 44% of the entire crypto space at the moment. So ultimately, this is likely to move right back up again before the alt season actually kicks off and we drop Bitcoin's dominance right back down. So it's always worth paying attention to what's going on here. Now, if we get into Bitcoin's charts, I know a lot of people were extremely worried yesterday about the weekly closed candle. And this is the weekly closed candle closing below the 20 EMA, right? That was what everyone was kind of calling out, and that was the big worry in the space. Yes, it closed behind or below the 20 moving average. Or the EMA, but ultimately it actually closed below that the week prior. Okay, so it actually happened over here. Then they obviously saw the come down and the crash last week, the correction from last week, go much lower down towards the 30k level. So I don't know why people were overly concerned last week, because it had already closed below it prior, right? So, but that's on the weekly. But what we want to do is actually take a look at a bigger macro scale here. If we take a look at this on the monthly, we are actually above the 20 EMA, right? So on the monthly scale, we are above it. And, we actually came down here in December of 2019 before going back up. Obviously had the March crash, pulling it way down, and then we saw what went on there. So in terms of this 20 EMA on the monthly, we're well above it. On the weekly, if I just pull that back up here, we can obviously see that actually it happened 2 weeks ago that we were closing below the 20 EMA. So yeah, it's no surprise that obviously last week we were also going to be below the 20 EMA. Now, what's really interesting is when you start taking a look at this at that daily level, and if we just drill in here and expand this up a little bit so you can see, we are, let me find it, where are we? Okay, so here we can see the 20 EMA, and we are still below it on the daily chart here. And again, we can see the red box that we marked out previously, whatever we wanted to make sure that we actually filled into this area, which we have done. And we are looking to get that recovery coming back up. But we do want to make sure that this downward trend that's forming here, is not sustainable, and we need to make sure that we go back through and pierce through that. So in the coming kind of days, it's going to be crucial to see. And when we pull this into our hourly, again, you get that similar picture, but this time you can see something slightly differently, right? So we were below the 20 EMA on the hourly. We are actually now above the 20 EMA, but also crucially, we're actually above the 50 moving average as well, the simple moving average. And here it was previously resistance, and now actually we have got this to a point where we're actually above the 50 moving average. So we're going to be watching out for to see how this kind of plays out on the short term. Obviously on this short term for Bitcoin, we are also quite high on that relative strength index. And also on this direction to the upside, the sentiment has changed a little bit, right? So we're moving the price of Bitcoin up here and the volumes were decreasing, which meant that sentiment was still very bearish. It was very fearful, didn't know what to do. And then ultimately today we can see this set of candles and the volume increasing. And as we have the correction to the downside, we also see the volume decreasing. That's a shift in sentiment. So ultimately, we're looking at this and we're saying, okay, well, there's lots of fear around here when the price is falling down, and we can see the volume of selling pressure increasing, which means it has a lot of momentum behind it. There's lots of sentiment there for selling Bitcoin. And then when we start seeing the price move back up because it finds a bottom and the volumes are decreasing, that tells us that ultimately the sentiment is still very fearful. Now, what we're seeing today, on the other hand, is a reversal on that. We are seeing that the candles are moving up and the volumes are increasing. So we're seeing buying pressure coming in here, and it's an increase in buying pressure. It finds resistance and then it drops off, right? And as there's a correction coming in here with red candles, the volumes decrease. That's a complete shift in what we have seen in the previous few days. So if that continues, and that was actually telling me that the sentiment on this short-term scale is actually quite bullish rather than bearish. And this kind of goes in line with everything else we've been saying recently on the channel. So when it comes to Bitcoin here, things are starting to heat up. They are starting to get interesting. We're entering that interesting timeline where we're going to know definitively one way or another which way things are likely to go. And as always, guys, we are looking to move Bitcoin from its current position in a retracement method up to the 618. That'll be about 48k, and that'll be the definitive time. Somewhere between 48k and 53k in that zone is going to be the definitive moment for whether Bitcoin will go up and set new all-time highs or actually come back down and set new lows. That's the kind of area that we are looking for to make sure we know what's going on here with Bitcoin. Right now, these kind of short-term plays, they're interesting to watch, but they aren't going to tell you too much until you get into that real retracement zone, that push back up into those major resistance areas where we'll know definitively what's going to happen here with Bitcoin. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at VeChain because it has been performing quite well today. So if we pull up VeChain here we can see it on the daily, and we can see that reversal coming in nicely. Now, on this daily chart, what we can do is obviously see we put the Elliott wave theory with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So completing wave 4 at the bottom there. And ultimately, it looks like we are at the bottom of our relative strength index at 34, not even oversold yet. So this could potentially push quite nicely to the upside and on a steep correction. And again, like always, we have the Fibonacci retracement tool on here. And this is telling us roughly where we're aiming to actually return to. So the 618 here comes in about 17.5 cents. That's going to be the definitive moment for VeChain as to whether or not it's going to push on up higher than that, or likely to fall back down to lower lows, in which case wave 4 has not completed. So we're still waiting to figure that out as well. So right now it's doing well, just under 20%. I think I saw this as a high of 28% for today so far, and it has been performing well on this daily chart. And again, if we pull this into our hourly, here you can see that actually the previous resistance of that 20 EMA actually has now turned into support. We actually broke past the 50 moving average, as well as briefly breaking past the 100 moving average. Now we were overbought here, and then obviously we were pulling back down. And again, like we were speaking, that sentiment seems to have shifted once again, right? So ultimately, whilst the price was falling down, the volumes were increasing with selling pressure, and now the price has been moving up. During this particular moment yesterday, although the price was moving up, the volumes were decreasing, which meant actually the sentiment was still quite fearful. But today, the price moving up, the volumes have actually increased. Whilst the correction was coming in at being overbought, the sentiments changed with decreasing volume. So right now, again, it's looking bullish rather than bearish. So really interesting to see how that plays out right there. And if we are going to find support on the 50 moving average, continuing that 20 EMA as a support line as well. Going to be watching that one quite closely. So for VeChain, things are looking pretty good as well. Now, we can obviously have a look at a few of these other ones that have been performing well. Not going to take a look at ADA today. We kind of went into that yesterday, so they're quite well. But Harmony One is up 29%. So let's go ahead and pull up our Harmony One chart and see what is going on there as well. So if we jump into Harmony One, here we can see again, on this daily chart where we are today with this huge green candle forming. And again, still following our patterns here. So if I just pull this down a little bit and zoom on out, we can see the wave 3 was at the top there. And wave 4 is something that potentially had the potential to actually drop all the way down here. Now that hasn't actually come in yet. So we're going to be interested to see if this actually just retraces up to our 618 area and then has a fallback. But right now on this daily chart, that the relative strength index is in a pretty good spot. But again, we want to see how this kind of tracks over time. It seems to be resistance up there at the 100 moving average, support at the 200 moving average. They are well below the 20 EMA and obviously below the 50 moving average as well. Now, what I do is I'll pull this down into our hourly for Harmony One here, and we can see that actually we had this bullish cross just happen in terms of the candles really moving from the downside as it was oversold down here on our relative strength index, going up to the overbought area and finding that resistance on the 100 moving average. Okay, so what this is telling us right now again is during this whole fearful motion to the downside here, the volumes were increasing. Very much you can tell the sentiment was quite fearful. And then today we obviously have pushing the price back up. But again, those volumes are actually decreasing, right? So right now that sentiment does not appear to have actually changed here for Harmony One. So we're going to have to watch this one quite closely and see if we're going to be able to push on through the resistance or whether or not Harmony One is going to fall back down a little bit lower for another set of accumulation. So right now we want to see if we're going to be turning any of these areas into support. Is our 20 EMA going to be a support line? Is our 50 moving average going to be a support line? Are we going to break past that 100 moving average on this lower time scale? Right now, with the fact that we are close to the overbought area, the fact that the volumes are actually decreasing over time, I'm going to say that actually it's more than likely that we're going to fall a little bit lower yet for Harmony One. So watch that space. It's moved 29%. It looks like there was a significant whale potentially buying up some Harmony One at this point and really pushing the needle to the upside here. So for Harmony One, it's definitely a good day today in terms of making a nice green candle. But I think that's going to be short-lived, and I think we are likely to fall back down a little bit on Harmony One. Now, let's just take a look at one other chart because it has been performing well. Let's take a look at Singularity Net. So AGI to the USD. We'll just pull this one up. So straight away, let's just pull this up into our daily view and just collapse this down a little bit. Right, so we had this yellow box kind of marked out because this was an area that we thought we actually have to come down to and kind of fill this gap a little bit. And this is where we put the bottom of our fourth wave. Now, actually, this here is an interesting one. We actually went into this, but we didn't actually fall too low. We actually found a good area of support just about here. So we'll have to see if we come back in. So let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. If we zoom on in and we take a look at these candles for a little while here, we can see that we had basically just fell below the 200 moving average there, and we have now broken on up. Now here we can see the 20 EMA, the 50 moving average, the 100 moving average, and all of those things there, and the 20 EMA is moving down quite nicely here. Now in terms of the relative strength index, we are nice and low. We were not oversold, but it obviously dropped quite significantly in value, so it is oversold. Now if we pull this into our hourly view, again, you can see that entry into our yellow box here. This is the void that we thought we needed to fill. Would like to have seen it drop a little bit lower, but ultimately it was oversold, so it was going to get that reversal. And during this particular swing here, we can see that the volumes were actually increasing quite significantly. So the sentiment had very much changed for AGI. And as we got to the top here, we can start to see that volume actually start to peter off and drop that down as we get this correction, as we enter the overbought area. So again, this one in line with VeChain's very bullish rather than being bearish, and ultimately finding resistance up here at that 200 moving average. If we can flip and turn the 50 moving average and the 20 EMA into support lines, this could continue the upward direction for AGI, in which case we would never actually have to come back down into our lower area here for AGI and Singularity Net. So we are looking for a correction. We want to stabilize around the 50 moving average, so the previous area of resistance during this downward trend. Likewise with that 20 EMA. If we can start to actually reverse these things and start using those as finding good support lines on our way back up, then AGI is going to do quite well moving on out of these zones. Now, what I'm going to do is just pull this back into our daily. And here what we're going to look at, we have got the Fibonacci on this one. So we can see actually from that high point down to the low point where we are right now. Ultimately, if I actually grab hold of this in a little bit more detail for you guys. So if we grab hold of our Fibonacci retracement tool here, what we're going to do is we're going to just put this down onto this level here. So with AGI, we obviously hit this high. We had the initial crash. We went up to the 618. It failed to hold the 618 and fell down lower. So in this example, what we're going to look to do here is actually put the Fibonacci retracement on that low there, and then put this up to that high point there. Okay, so we are looking to retrace to about 33.5 cents, and that's going to be the test area to know whether or not Singularity Net is going to be moving on up out of wave 4 into wave 5, or whether or not it's actually going to fall a little bit lower. And that's going to be the test zone for us. So we are expecting that, that motion to the upside to occur, and we are going to be really paying attention to that 618 Fibonacci level at 33.5 cents, because that's going to tell us whether or not Singularity Net will fall down lower and continue to fill our wave 4 in our yellow box. If, however, it continues past 33.5 into 40 cents, from there, I'll be pretty confident in saying that we're entering wave 5 for Singularity Net, although that would be incredibly quick. So we'll be watching that space quite closely here for Singularity Net, but otherwise it's looking pretty good. Out of the three, Harmony One's probably the most I'm concerned with at the moment, considering where it's currently lying and the sentiment in the market hasn't really changed for Harmony One. And whereas if you look at VeChain and you look at Singularity Net, that sentiment has apparently changed. It looks quite bullish. It's following a slightly different pattern than what it has been doing in the previous few days. So right now, everything that we're looking at on the charts here do look and appear to be pretty good. So hopefully, guys, you found this useful and informative. If you have, then do go ahead and hit that like button for me. I really do appreciate it. And I know if Chris had joined me, he would appreciate it too. And of course, if you're new to the channel and you want to stay up to date with those new cryptocurrencies, those hidden gems, the technical analysis and news, then do become a subscriber. By subscribing, you will be kept up to date with absolutely everything we do here. It is free. You'll stay well informed. So why not? With that said, done and out of the way, we hope you have a fantastic day, guys. And I'll catch you in the next one.